Sarah, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you?
Not bad.
Now.
How's yourself?
Very good. You've got wind.
Yes. Very bad wind.
Noisy wind, I believe.
Oh, incredibly noisy.
And you're going to do something about it. But I gather that this planning permission was given for this wind.
Yes. Planning permission was granted by Gerry County Council, and nobody seems to know what to do about the noise.
Okay, where do you live exactly?
I live just outside Kilgarvan.
Kilgarvan. And I presume you're referring to a wind farm.
3 wind farms.
3 wind farms?
Yes. I live halfway up a mountain. And
I know if you're flying south in the Shannon direction from Dublin, there's one huge wind farm sort of halfway along the journey, rising like something out of science fiction out of the landscape.
yes.
I've never actually stopped to hear it, so I don't know, but it looks pretty impressive. You're saying it may look impressive, it may even provide electricity, but it's a pain in the ass in terms of noise pollution.
They are. They're an absolute pain in the arse.
And how noisy is it, Sarah?
Basically, it gets so noisy at night that it wakes my 2-year-old, and she is then too scared to go to bed.
What kind of noise is it?
Well, most of the time it's like a rumbling. I mean, I live right in the middle of nowhere. There's no cars up here. There's nothing. So when you're sitting in the house and it sounds like there's a lorry outside your house ticking over, that's, you know, how bad it is.
That's not good, is it?
No, and you lay in bed at night hearing a whooshing sound continuously. Yeah. That's the gist of it. Especially when on one side of the house there's 17 turbines.
My God.
To the other side of the house there's 9, and then to the other side there's 6.
And how big are they? The ones that I'm referring to now, that I have seen, I've flown over them a few times. They're gigantic.
Well, last year the 17 turbines were commissioned, and part of the publicity was stating these are the largest turbines in Europe. The total height is 120 metres. That's the height of the Dublin Spire.
That's how high they are?
Yeah. And the closest one at that height to my house is just over 500 metres.
But that's enormous.
It's unbelievable. It really is.
And who's running them? Who operates them?
There's 2 companies involved. One company is called Midas Energy, and the other company is SWS.
I know it's become it's a very attractive proposition to have this hybrid electrical generation.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that it wasn't all that difficult to get planning permission
No,
for it. In fact, I'd say it was
easy.
actively encouraged.
Yeah.
But really, even though maybe creating very clean energy, by the way, it's not the most efficient way to make energy, I can tell you that. That's another argument, though, and anything that goes towards making our planet a little more habitable is good. However, not if you have to endure.
At the price of my family.
Not if you have to
life.
endure pollution of another nature, and that's noise pollution in your case.
Yeah. It's just I mean, I go out in the garden and it'd be a beautiful blue sky, absolutely gorgeous out there, and you think, oh, it's so wonderful up here. And after about 10 minutes, the noise starts to make me feel physically sick. So then I have to go inside and I have to drag all my 4 children inside, and I can't enjoy the area I'm living in anymore.
And did you get an opportunity to be consulted about this? I mean, did they? Were you notified that the planning process was about to take place? Have you had a chance to talk to the people who run it?
We bought our house in November 2001. 2 months later, they came round knocking on our door saying, we're going to build wind farms near your house. Is that all right? And I was like, well, how much is it going to interrupt our lives?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. You won't hear anything from them, blah, blah, blah. And now they're finally built, they're there, and it's just horrific. It really is. I mean, people ask me, what's it like? Are they noisy? And I know they don't really quite believe me. But then when they drive up to my house and see what it looks like, they're horrified.
Now, if the towers are the height of the spire, right, I mean, how big are the actual blades?
The blades are 80 metres in diameter.
Holy mother of God. 80 metres in diameter.
And they have 3 blades.
I mean, that's about 230,
But no,
40 feet.
The total height is 120 metres, including the blades. And they're just huge. Visually, I don't mind them. I could live with the visual effect. But it's the noise pollution, and it's unbearable.
And have you talked to the operators and tried to...
I've been in talks with both companies for a couple of months now.
What do they say to you when you say, look, it's too noisy, guys? I'm sorry, I'm sure that it's wonderful in terms of making electricity in a clean way, but it's noisy.
They're basically, let's monitor it.
Let's monitor it?
Yeah.
Well, you've done that, haven't you?
And I've been monitoring, and it just seems so wrong that this is allowed to happen. And now, I've got 4 young children, the oldest being 6, the youngest being 5 months. And my house is a bit too small for us, and we want to extend it, but we don't want to put any more money into our house now.
Have they offered you free electricity or anything to try and kind of make you sleep a little easier at night?
When they originally came round at their first canvassing, that was something that was mentioned. It's never been mentioned again since.
It's never been brought up since, eh?
It was even mentioned when the planning permission was going through that if we didn't object, they might consider a contract to buy up my property if I didn't like it.
And where's that little offer gone?
Vanished. Disappeared into thin air.
Well, it may be politically correct from an environmental point of view, but from an honesty point of view, it doesn't sound very correct. It also also sounds as if you've been sold a pup.
Yes. It's like the wall has been pulled over our eyes, and I think also over the council's eyes. I mean, I've been looking at the environmental impact statements they've provided with their applications, and it's not a patch on what's actually happening. And according to the council, what it says in those statements, you have to take it as read. I can't enforce these noise levels or anything that they've written would happen.
Why not?
Because it's what might happen, not what will happen.
Well, what on the basis that they're unlikely to want to close down the... let's look at the options here. Closing it down. They're probably unlikely to want to do that. Yeah. So that would mean a big battle with them. I'm not saying it's impossible to, but it would be a big battle. Secondly, modify the gearing in the turbines so that they don't make as much noise.
They've told me they've changed settings within the turbines to decrease the noise levels. It's made no difference.
Yeah, did you believe that?
I have to.
Yes, we've changed the settings on the turbines, madam.
Yes.
It should be much quieter tonight. Yeah, maybe they did. Maybe I'm being a bit too cynical, but
apparently next week they're supposed to be fitting a new thing to the blades that will help with the noise level as well, which is on some of the newer turbines which went up at the beginning of the year.
And are they better?
Well, they're still noisy, and I've told them, I don't know why you're bothering because I'm still going to hear the noise.
All right, I'll tell you what. Stay on the line and give us the name of the 2 companies involved, and we'll talk to them. And hopefully, by Tuesday or Wednesday, we should have some answer for you. Okay?
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not fair, really, isn't that basically what this story is about?
No, I mean,
it's also, you're in a very invidious position because at the moment, everything green, everything eco-friendly is cool and to be attached to. And we'll even see the Taoiseach at the moment talking to the Green Party. Everybody wants their...
Everybody wants to be environmentally friendly.
Everybody wants to be environmentally friendly. Stop global warming. Al Gore's great.
I'm totally with that.
Absolutely. But not if it drives you round the twist.
I don't care if people call me a NIMBY. Not in my backyard.
Well...
But this isn't actually in my backyard. This is in my house.
Okay.
In my home.
Okay. All right, but we'll see if we can get some answers for you, right? And get some straight talking, okay?
Lovely, thank you.
For instance, if they came along with a big trunk full of money...
Well, if they go... Because that's another thing. I've had the house valued.
Yeah.
And if the farms weren't there, my house would be worth €275,000.
And how much is it worth as a result of them being there?
150 if I'm really lucky. And the person who came along was partially sighted and deaf.
Jeez.
That really narrows the range.
The demographic in terms of buyers, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And so I can't even move away. So, I mean, there's two things that I would like to see happen is, one, the wind farms go, or two, I go.
Okay, well, let's see if we can achieve one of those with equity and in a reasonable fashion. Give us the names of the companies again.
SWS.
SWS.
Yeah, and Midas Energy.
Midas Energy. We'll check that out for you.
Lovely, thank you.
That's a promise. I'll be back to you.
Thank you.
Martin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you, my old friend?
Very good. Are you on hands-free there, Martin?
Oh, yeah, I'm just okay. I moved in. I came into a nice cafe for a cup of tea. That's all, Gerry.
All right.
And I'm still wearing my shorts and there's no problems.
Okay, what happened there?
I tell you, Gerry, I just wondered, I just throw this out to the nation, maybe you might be able to help me out. Gerry, I was in a hotel there, my wife and I there a couple of weeks ago, and we were sitting down. I wear shorts and nicely tan legs and flat shoes and a white shirt, and sitting down having a cup of tea and a sandwich, and the manager came up and he said, sorry, I'm sorry, but he said, you'll have to leave, he said, and I said, why? He said, you're wearing shorts. I said, yeah, but I said, there's nothing wrong with wearing shorts. Oh yeah, he said, but he said that we have a dress code here, and I said, yeah, but this is during the day and this is in the summer. I said, and I'm not offending anyone. And I said, well, sure, what's wrong with wearing shorts? Well, he said, no, he said, you can't wear shorts. He said, but I said, look, it says, nicely presented, nice clean shaven, it said, tan legs, it said, nice shoes, it said, I said, what about that lady over there? And I said, yeah, but she's a woman, he said, that's a different story. And at that, the woman heard what was going on. She got up and she said, I'm sorry, she said, but that man, she said, has every right to wear a short, she said. But the woman, the manager said, sure, he says, it's not got to do, with you, madam, he says, well, it's not fair, she says. I mean, why can't a man walk into a hotel in shorts, nicely short, nice groomed, nice tan legs, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and a woman walk in and the man has to leave, and I just wonder, Gerry, I mean, that's wrong altogether in this day and age in 2007. Surely to God, men...
Were they very tight shorts?
No, Gerry, no, it's just an ordinary shorts, God, an ordinary shorts you buy in the shop, like,
Yeah, sure, I understand, yeah. Were you wearing socks?
Yeah, white socks, yeah. White socks, because I do a bit of were they contemporary shorts? Were they the kind of long shorts, down as... No, Gerry, but nice, I mean, like just down to your knees,
Well, would they be the style of an 80s GAA short, or would they be more sort of...
exactly, yeah.
more P-daddy?
Yeah, like what the soccer players wear.
Right, I understand. I'm with you.
Like if you walked out, you say you're going into a tennis, and you have kind of a nice tennis, you know what I mean, when you play tennis with tennis shorts.
And do you wear shorts all the time, Martin?
All the time, Gerry, 24/7. 24/7, I swear to God. Even in the winter, Gerry, I wouldn't wear pants.
And why is that now?
Because, Gerry, I find pants too awkward and uncomfortable, and I travel a lot in the car. I work for a charity and I travel a lot, and the shorts is nice, and I keep the legs tanned and waxed, because I do a little bit of fundraising, and I dress up in different costumes, so I'm used to dressing up, so I mean, to me it's not like,
You dress up in different costumes?
Yeah, for karaoke and things like that, it could be Tina Turner, it could be Madonna, it could be Cher, it could be ABBA, it could be Britney Spears, it could be Elvis,
You dress up in women's clothes?
Well, not women's clothes, like when I'm doing a show. I mean, I don't dress up in women's clothes and go into pubs or anything like that.
No, I didn't suggest that. No, but that would be the other side of you would be dressing up as Tina Turner.
I keep the legs nicely and tanned, groomed. Like, you have to look well when you're a man.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, men show a lot for their appearance in this day and age. Like, so I mean, we want to be equal like women. I mean, if women can wear what they want to wear, sure. I mean, surely to God, Gerry, a man can wear what he wants to wear.
Absolutely, I agree with you entirely. Yeah.
And we're coming into 2007 now, and I said to the manager, I said, look, this is a joke. Like, come on, I'm come down here all my life. I said,
what was the manager wearing?
He's wearing a shirt and tie.
Yeah.
The
usual sort of...
Yeah. I mean, the girl now, fair play to her, she stood up and she had the same shirt.
And did you actually have to leave then, did you?
I did, yeah. It was embarrassed, Gerry, yeah.
And what kind of a place was it?
Just an ordinary hotel, Gerry. It wasn't 4-star, 3-star, 5-star, 10-star. Just an ordinary hotel, middle of the road hotel, like, that, I mean, the people come down there.
Can you give us the name of the hotel? Would you be able? What was the name of the hotel?
I would like to name it, Gerry, on the air.
Why?
Because I tell you why, you wouldn't know, like, I'm from Kilkenny and we're after getting a lot of flack lately, like, on the radio. And,
that's right, with the hen parties and
I mean, I do a little bit
the
of
machetes and the samurai swords and the
I do a little bit of an Elvis
the
sketch,
RPGs and the landmines and everything.
I pub dress as Elvis, like, so come on, like, So you know yourself, right? I mean, Kilkenny's a lovely, lovely city, Gerry. One of the finest.
I know. And are you wearing shorts now?
Oh yeah, right just a minute, sitting in the cafe here.
Sitting in the cafe, having an cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Well, let's put the word out this morning. Are people, particularly people in Kilkenny, are you offended by men wearing shorts?
It's not that. It's people know me as an extra.
We've a couple of fellas who wear shorts into work here in the radio centre.
You're joking.
Yep, and there's never a problem about it.
But I was just wondering, Gerry, did any of your researchers or any of your guys, producers, did they ever wear a short?
In fact, I was only talking to the divisional director of radio, Adrian Moynes, the other day, and he said to me, isn't it great to see so many fellas in their shorts during the summer? And I said, it is, Director. I said, it's fantastic. And I knew he was looking at me wearing a suit and tie, and I knew what was going through his mind. For God's sake, Ryan, lighten up there. Would you get on your shorts?
Because, I mean, it's nice and comfortable and you look well. I mean, if it's well presented and nice.
I mean, as you know, we're an equal opportunities employer. I mean, good few fellas wearing shorts, actually. Is there one of them outside there at the moment? Is he wearing shorts? Are you wearing shorts, are you? No, he's not wearing shorts.
Ask him, Gerry, would he ever go into a hotel and sit down and have a meal in shorts and flat shoes?
Would you ever do that? There's a fella who wears shorts into work occasionally. Would you ever go into a hotel and sit down in flat shoes in your shorts, would you? Yeah, he would. Yeah.
No problem to him, Gerry.
No problem, no.
You're joking.
No problem to him at all.
You're joking.
No.
My God. But maybe he has better pair of legs than I have.
No, in fact, he's just... What's that? The last hotel he went into was the Shelburne Hotel in his shorts, yeah, and it only opened a few weeks. Dublin, yeah.
It's amazing, Gerry, because I was up in the Gresham Hotel, and I was sitting down in
and they
the
wouldn't
fire.
let you in, would they not?
No, they did. God, they did. No
of
problem.
course they did, yeah.
They did, and they were very polite, and the manager was fantastic. But I was a bit embarrassed, like, you know. I mean, God's sake, like, come on, it's 2007.
2007.
You know, I mean, if a woman could walk in, Gerry, in the shorts.
And were there women wearing shorts in the?
Oh yes, Gerry.
In the cafe.
What
was it? Was it a cafe or was it a restaurant or a bar?
No, it was in the foyer of a hotel.
In the foyer.
In the foyer of a hotel. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I knew the hotel personally. Like, we'd be going out there all our lives.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Were you upset?
You would be, Gerry, a bit. Like, I mean, I tell you, I don't mind what people
Look,
say,
I don't know what this means. It's a text is after coming in. It's kind of... Do you wear underpants under the shorts?
Oh, yeah, I do,
right,
Gerry,
okay.
yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, you couldn't see anything, Gerry, I put it that way.
No, don't even go there.
God, I mean, I don't open my legs.
I know.
You have to keep yourself... When you're wearing shorts, you keep yourself very...
You have to be careful. Hold on. David, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry. How are you doing?
Very good. You're a taxi driver.
But by law, Gerry, I'm nearly sure now. I remember this being called to me before. Taxi men were not allowed to wear shorts.
You're not allowed to wear shorts by law.
But I'm nearly sure. Someone said that to me before. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm nearly 90% sure. I mean, I remember going to a taxi office before, and I said one of the managers pulled me over and said, by law, if the carriage office pull you, they can.
Do you wear shorts in your taxi?
I've often wear knee-length shorts. I wouldn't be wearing the one up your bum now.
But that's I'm not wearing. My ones are knee-length as well, like, you know.
Yeah, no, I'd wear the knee-length ones in the summertime, you know.
Yeah.
They're more like combat, just like kind of short and combat.
Yeah.
But it's just apparently some sort of threat or something like that. Apparently, that's the way it was told to me. Now, true it is, Gerry.
A threat.
It could be one of these urban myths that's that's been generated by taxi men over the years now. In fairness.
And David, would you go into a hotel or a cafe or a bar in your shorts?
I've often gone into what's it called? One of the local hotels near me in a pair of shorts and a pair of sandals. Has never been an issue. Now, once you don't go in your bare feet and you're not wearing your underpants.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good man, Dave. You're dead right. Fair play to you.
You wouldn't go in at night time though. Sure, you wouldn't.
No, not at all. Not at night time.
But see, that's the sad thing about it, Gerry. This was in the night. This was around 10 o'clock.
At night?
Well, I can sort of see where they're coming from. There's a dress code,
It was at night time?
Yeah.
That's a bit odd, is it not?
No, I find that a bit strange, Jeremy.
Dave, it's in the height of the summer and it's 21 degrees out there, and you're just getting out your taxi.
Yeah, but I mean, if a hotel has a dress policy, they have a dress policy, and that's the way it is. They don't want people.
But then, Dave, why don't they have a dress policy for women then as well?
Yeah.
Well, that's a different issue.
Hold on a second. No, wait, Gerry. I'm Dave. I'm sorry, but I mean, if a man wants to wear what he wants to wear, he can wear it.
No. Well, in that case, when you'll have fellas going around in dresses going into hotels at night time, if that was the case.
You should try it. You never know.
No, I don't think so.
He dressed David Martin dresses up as a woman to sing.
Does he? Yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah.
John Martin.
You've never driven the taxi dressed as Tina Turner, David?
No, I don't think, Gerry. I don't think. I'm 6'2" and about 14.5 stone. I wouldn't be the.
Sounds good to me.
You're simply the best boy.
Okay, right. Well, anyway, Martin, we're going to investigate this for you,
David.
right? Good luck. Good morning. And we're going to check out now what the opinions of other hotels would be around the country.
You're wonderful. You know that.
Thanks very much.
I mean sincerely. I swear to God. Welcome to Kilkenny anytime, Gerry.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Lovely people here.
And I appreciate those words. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Gerry.
Lovely fella there at 10 o'clock at night in a Kilkenny hotel. For some strange and bizarre reason, they wouldn't let this cross-dressing man, this shorts-wearing man, into the hotel to have a cup of tea and a sandwich because he was in his shorts. So what do you think? 1850 715 922. Speaking of the Shelbourne, as a matter of fact, I see here that they're appointing a butler, but a butler with a difference. They have, as you know, it's a 5-star hotel, recently refurbished, the cost of about 80-something million, I think. They've appointed a genealogy butler. Now, what would that be, says you? Well, this is somebody who would be able to help you trace your ancestral roots. And that the genealogist will actually take up residence today and is going to offer guests to the hotel 1-hour advisory sessions on where did it come from in the first place. So that may be useful to some of us on a Friday night when we're trying to remember where to go back home, I suppose. In just 24 hours, and this is not meant to be a threat, this is just information. In just 24 hours, 113,000 students will prepare to sit their first exam in the junior and leaving certificates for 2007. The pencils are paired and the boxes containing the 3 million papers have been collected by the exam supervisors. Now, whatever about the students, a lot of parents, I know, are suffering from exam nerves themselves on behalf of their offspring. And that's not really a good thing. We'll be talking about that in a moment because, if you worry, well, you'll look like it and you'll make them worry even more. Joining us in studio again for the 115th time is career guidance guru Brian Mooney to give students and parents alike, good morning to both listening, some last-minute tips on how to get through the next week or two, or in fact the next few weeks, because it's a long old hike nowadays, isn't it?
2.5 weeks. Yeah.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I suppose, and this has been a fact since the cave, you've either covered the courses...
You've done it at this stage.
...or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not here to help people who haven't done it.
No.
Okay? Now, by done it, that could mean partially done it. But we're certainly not going to be able to help you if you did nothing. If you did nothing, you're on your own, basically.
Well, you were in a classroom for the last 6 years, and teachers were doing stuff. So there's a huge amount of stuff in your head, whether it's organised. That's the matter.
Or not. For most people, for most of you, for the large majority, even those who've been listening to their parents telling them that they've done nothing and that they're never going to amount to anything, you probably know an awful lot more than you actually realise. You probably have learnt an awful lot more, you've retained an awful lot more, but you probably haven't figured out how to get it out. That's what this is about this morning.
Absolutely. I mean, the most important thing, Gerry, and there is something students can do now if they haven't already done it, the structure of what you're going to be expected to present each examination over the next 2.5 weeks, whether you're junior cert or leaving cert, is sitting there in front of you on your PC on the State Examination Commission's website. Every past paper is there, which students have had for donkey's years, but now, for the last year or two, what they've had is the marking scheme for every single paper, and it's there, and just print it off. So you can every exam you're going into over the next 2.5 weeks, you can print off the marking scheme, print off the past papers, and know exactly what it is you're going to be facing, how many marks are awarded for each section, and what they're looking for in each section. So you can, in a sense, link all that stuff in your head with the actual structure of what they're looking for, and that will improve your performance if you haven't already done it.
And that is really worth doing, because it is the one thing where you can actually sit down and decide, okay, I need to concentrate on these 2 or 3 areas here, because the lion's share of the points on the paper is being devoted to these here.
Exactly.
So I can't ignore them. I must work on these. But it will also give you a hint as to what other ones, if you're having difficulty, maybe aren't that significant, and you can look for alternatives.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, it's the difference between, ultimately, you and I were in the West over the weekend, and we knew where we were going. And we had we looked at the map and we knew the route, and therefore you just get in the car and you get there. And ultimately, once you know the route map, it's easy. If you don't know where you're going and you're just heading out somewhere and you pick a junction and go which direction, you're going to be an awful lot more confused. The route map is the marking scheme, is the past papers. They're all there. It's not rocket science. So that when you go into the examination, you should be able to say, right, I know what question 1 is going to be. It's going to be in 3 sections. 90% of the marks are in section 3. Therefore, that's the most important time. That sort of stuff will hugely improve your performance if you actually get your head around it. So it's not really now a question of getting more information into your head or studying into the middle of the night.
It's what to do with that information.
It's what to do with that information.
Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a few moments. First of all, parents, good morning to you all listening this morning. Fretting and worrying, and you can't believe that you've also got a confirmation and a communion in the same year, and you can't even remember doing the junior or the leaving cert yourself. Sure, it wasn't even called the junior cert when you did it. We're trying to have a look at exactly what your role will be. Now, the parent's role is incredibly significant.
Hugely important. Hugely important. The first thing a parent should do is actually take out the examination schedule so that they know what exam is on each day. Because young people, being young people, especially under this kind of stress, can get confused over the 2.5 weeks and can think that they've got a paper in the afternoon when it's in fact in the morning. So effectively, the first thing a parent should know is the exact schedule of exams that their son or daughter, or sons and daughters, are going to be facing, and that they make it their business to ensure that they get their son or daughter to the examination centre. And it may be just a question of saying in the morning, okay, well, good luck with English this morning, or good luck with French tomorrow, or you've got an exam now at 9:30, haven't you, etc. Because that simple sentence can actually save the situation that sometime arises where a principal is ringing a house to say,
Where's John?
Where's John? His exam started and the superintendent tells me he's not in the centre, and then it's total panic. And another thing is, it is a stressful situation over the next 2.5 weeks, and people do get tired. And we do live in a world where a lot of parents are leaving home early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning to get to work, both of them, and little Johnny is in bed and they're depending on him getting up. So make sure that if you have a son or daughter that's doing an exam, don't leave the house without making sure they're up and ready for the exam, especially, obviously, if it's an early morning exam.
Now, what you're really saying here, it's very important for the parent to be engaged with what's happening.
Yes.
If your child thinks that they're peripheral to the household, if they think that nobody else notices what's going on, they'll feel bad about it, they'll feel negative about it. By knowing the schedule, first of all, you can save their bacon by doing exactly as you've remarked there, by reminding them that they actually have an exam. And it isn't so mad, to suggest that could turn very sour.
After a week or so,
no problem. And secondly, to feel that they're important, that they're significant, that what they're going through is big. And there's a way of doing that. First of all, we live in very chaotic worlds nowadays. Our homes are places where there's an awful lot of activity happening. Increasingly, there's conflict in homes.
Yes.
This is a time to suspend everything and allow your child calm. No arguments, nothing.
Well, the most important thing is, I say, for parents to try and ensure that there is an atmosphere of calm around the house. When the child comes home from the examination, the student comes home from the examination, it's not a question of, give me that paper, now let's see what you did on question 1. That's a nightmare. But how was your day? To enable the student...
Are you okay? Can I do anything for you?
Exactly. How was the day? How did the exam go for you? Listen, don't get into postmortems. Listen and let them talk it out, and then say, okay, that's fine.
That's the starting point.
Yeah.
What happens? The child comes in now inevitably. Because I've even had one or two of these calls last week in pre-leaving cert exams. and you say, how'd you get on? And they go, oh, a lot of the stuff I was counting on didn't come up.
Yeah.
Now, that's a moment in time that you have to move on.
Absolutely. You say, well,
and the
okay,
parent is the key
did
mover.
you do your best?
Yeah.
You know, you did your best there, and obviously there's nothing we can do about that paper now. So, look, just put it aside. The most important thing is the next one along the line, because that's the only thing you can actually do anything about. So, I mean...
So bring them in, give them something to eat, run a bath for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but do not do the post-mortem.
Do not do the post-mortem.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you said, it's important that there be calm, but at the same time, it's also important that they don't feel that the whole house is completely everybody holding their breath, because that's going to drive them. You know, they're going to feel so self-conscious about that. So, you know, try and keep things nice and calm, but at the same time, try and keep it normal at the same time, because otherwise nobody's going to be able to suspend.
But don't argue with them. When they come down the stairs and they're freaked out of their minds and they're shouting at you because their nerves are gone, don't take them on.
No.
This is not the time for it.
That's the time to absorb it.
Yeah.
You can take them on in 2.5 weeks' time when it's all over.
By the big time. Yeah. All bets are off until then.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of actually becoming involved in what's going to come up on the paper and how you approach the paper, a parent can make inquiries or suggestions if the child is comfortable with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, questions like, you know, what's up next? What paper have you got next? Are there any compulsory sections? Are there any predictable questions, you know, that you know are going to come up? Obviously, you've all this revised. Well, have you? You know, well, maybe you could have a look over that and, you know, do an hour or two and then, but don't burn yourself out, you know. But it's supportive. It's the directional question. It's the opening up question. Oh, well, yeah, maybe I could do a bit about that. It's the facilitating question. It's enabling them to see, kind of put a structure. They've come home, they're tired, they've just done an exam. Obviously, what you're doing is creating a space in which they can think through, well, what can I do this evening that might be useful for tomorrow, without this, you know, working until 3 o'clock in the morning, disaster, because all it's going to do is it's going to mess their head up completely.
No, I always tell the story of a pal of mine who he eventually became a solicitor, so he got through it eventually.
Yes.
But the process was held up because he used to stay up, and I remember this summer where he would stay up until 4 and 5 in the morning.
Yes.
We'd arrive in, and I have to say, this guy probably knew more than I did.
Yes.
There was me, Peter Lennon, Dougie Heather, a couple of other fellas. They're all practising now. We arrived in slightly half-baked compared to this guy. He fell asleep twice
in the
exams, right? And
if you're falling asleep, you can imagine, even when you're awake, the state of your mental freshness.
So his exams were an absolute nightmare for him, and he had to reorganise his life and sit them again.
Yes.
Now, what do you do though when the child gets into that mode, where I've decided I'm staying up until 3 o'clock. I'm eating I'm eating the tablets, and I'm chewing the charcoal. I'm whacking back the Red Bull or the coffee or whatever it is. You can't get into a row about it, but you've got to say something.
Well, what you've got to say is, look, if you feel you've got work to do and you feel you need to do a bit of preparation, then what you do is you get to go to bed, and we'll set the clock for 6. And you can get up and do an hour or two before you go in, and that'll be fine. And
that hour or two will be worth 4 hours in the middle of the night.
Absolutely. And it won't.
And I think that's the way to say it to them. Say that you know that scientifically that after midnight, it's
achieving nothing.
It's achieving nothing.
It's achieving absolutely nothing, other than destroying your potential to be fresh. Because remember, if you're staying up till 2 or 3, imagine the state of your brain at 3 o'clock the following afternoon when you're into your 5th hour of writing. You're gone.
You're gone. Now, the child then, on the other hand, who comes in from the exam, what kicks off tomorrow, is it?
The first examination is English.
English, as usual. And they go, right, I'm off to play football with the lads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's an hour, and maybe get all the
anxiety,
junk and stuff out of their system. Yeah, we'll be back here for 7 because you need to do a few hours tonight before you get prepared.
I'm not back. It's grand. I've it all done. I'll be back by 10.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, at the end of the day, maybe they just need to take that break, and you know, obviously
there's no point really though in arguing.
There's no point in arguing at that stage. If somebody feels in their head they're ready for the following morning's examination,
let them at it.
Let them at it. Exactly.
Okay, let them at it. And you take a deep breath and stand back, because the row is the thing that will freak them out, that may cause them to be so anxious the next day that they don't manage to delve into their medium memory and actually extract the information. Now, you've got to maintain a proper balance between the study and the rest. And this really is an area where you can help an awful lot as a parent, because you can provide recreation, comfort, reasonable distraction, food.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
beverage.
It is a marathon. It is 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And if someone is going to go for 2.5 weeks without the balance, then by the time they get to the 7th and 8th exam, they're going to be absolutely burnt out. So what you're trying to do is to maintain their freshness and sharpness over a 2.5 week period, when in some cases they're doing 7 hours of writing a day. Now, that is not easy. And they are going to need a lot of, high energy nutrition, and they're going to need a lot of rest, and they're going to need a lot of relaxation time as well, if when they get to the final examination they're going to be as sharp as they were on the first day. And that's a real challenge to parents. But effectively it's a question, as I say, of keeping it balanced, keeping the whole thing reasonably calm, and at the same time supporting them through it by being a good listener.
Also, keeping a clear sight on freedom calls is, I have found, a great thing now. The Advent calendar was redesigned in our house for both the Leaving Cert and the Junior. We've a lot more Leaving and Juniors to go through. Yeah. In fact, we've 2 of them next year. And we put together, countdown to your freedom.
Yes. And
this meant that you could come along, and whether it was up in the bedroom or whether it was downstairs, on the wall, you could see where you were at. Right. And then you had a big red letter day at the end of it all, when you were either heading off with the guys off to Ibiza or down to Clare or getting the job or doing whatever. And I think that has a big effect.
I think that you're absolutely right, Gerry, to have an actual plan on the wall, a structure over the next 2.5 weeks.
It serves 2 purposes. One, you see your schedule.
Exactly.
But 2, you see freedom.
And you can also see that because you've got all of these subjects, starting with your English, ending up with your economics or whatever it is you're ending up with, you can actually plan your study. There's no point in planning for economics now with English starting tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And yet you might find that you've actually got, when you see it on the wall, you may find that you've 4 days or 3 days between your previous last exam and your economics. So if you've got 3 days to study for your last examination, then you don't touch that subject
until then,
because and if it's on the wall and it's a plan, then you can see exactly where you need to be going.
These rules and regulations apply to both, by the way. Yes. Obviously, junior certers will be of a slightly disposition, but they won't be really all that much different. Hopefully by the time you've gotten to your Leaving Cert, you're
well, when you're doing the Junior Cert, together. It's as important, and it's the first time you've done it, and you've never sat in these structures before, so it's hugely important to students doing the Junior Cert.
Now, peer support can also be very important around this time as well.
Yeah, well, obviously your friends are probably your most important reference point at any time in your life. And if your friends and yourselves are both doing the same examination, sometimes it can be useful, if you want to meet maybe for an hour and to go over the paper. And if somebody says, look, I'll work on the essay, you work on poetry, etc. Because the most important way of learning, as we all learned, is to present something and to actually have to sit in front of 2 or 3 others and
tell them.
And somebody says, well, what about this? I never thought of that. Yeah. You're actually clarifying your own thinking. Now, I would suggest that if that is happening, that obviously it could be done in an evening where the parent is there, because young people being young people, obviously if there's a parent, I don't mean standing physically there, but in the house and around, to make sure that what's actually being planned is taking place and that we're not all listening to loud music and just chatting and whatever. So effectively, yes, peer support, yes, maybe each person taking a particular question and going through it and presenting it, it can be useful. And also to talk it out, for young people to support each other by just being there, it can be very useful.
Now, having friends who are not doing exams coming down to the house is not a good idea.
Not a good idea, no.
Because it's very distracting. It makes you feel bad.
Exactly.
Plain simple makes you feel bad.
Yeah, because you have to give your time and energy to them, and they're not where you are at in your head, and it's exhausting, actually.
Yeah, and they've no empathy with you, because let's go back to when you were that age. You never had any empathy with anything, only your own problems,
exactly.
Right? So if you can, and actually I have found most young people, even with the most bizarre hairstyles, are fairly reasonable. One young fella turned up during my eldest son's exams outside. He'd gotten a new car, mad keen to show it to the eldest fella. And he said, where's your man? And I said, he's upstairs studying. And he said, is he still, he's got the exams? I thought they were over. I said, yeah, they're still on. He went, I'll give him a buzz later. And he legged it.
Yeah.
And so, this is an average normal guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they will be approachable to you, sending the subtle message.
Absolutely,
Look,
yeah.
might be better if you left it.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Which means that this thing gets turned off.
Yeah. So the mobile phone, actually, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Your iPod and your mobile phone.
Yeah.
These are wonderful pieces of equipment. They definitely have a role and probably will in some shape or form for the rest of your lives.
Yes.
But they are absolutely, they're grotesque distractions.
Total. Complete and total during examination time, because we all know you get 10 text messages and 5 phone calls, etc. And if you're dealing with all that stuff, you're not really working. I mean, I know it may seem a sacrilege to turn off the phone, but you do actually need to turn the damn thing off, because otherwise you're not going to get focused on anything.
And I think one of the useful things, and don't be threatening about this, because the minute you threaten somebody, they will take a polarised position. Suggest, if it would help you, I'll hold on to the phone for you.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
Switch it off. Don't worry. I'm not going to start reading your messages or doing anything weird. I don't know your PIN number, okay? But I'll hold the phone for you, and that'll stop you. And then when you need it later on, when you've got the break,
absolutely,
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, and you can turn it on. You can. You can.
And by the way, if you suddenly feel you have to ring Paris Hilton in jail, come down and we'll give it to you.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And the same goes for the iPod or the Sony Walkman or whatever. Because look, I used to do it.
Yes.
They were big, juicy, fat headphones on a reel-to-reel tape recorder, but I could put the headphones on and look like I was studying, whereas in actual fact I was listening to whatever appalling progressive rock music was available at that moment in time, and that wasn't helping.
No,
it wasn't helping. So it may sound like you're suggesting
you either do it or you don't do it.
Cut off your leg, but it's not as bad as that. Just don't be confrontational about it. Don't say I'm taking the phone and it'll go in the bin. That's not the way to do it.
No, it is not the way to do it.
Okay, we've got a caller on the line. If you'd like to stick the headphones on there, Brian, see if they're working first of all. Yes, testing 1 2. We're on. Okay, Miriam, good morning to you.
Good morning. Hi, Gerry. How are you?
Very good. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm just wondered any kind of extra over advice for the likes of my daughter, who's a basket case because she's going from Wednesday to Wednesday, the full shebang, all in the 7 days, And I know it's the same thing as everybody else, but just seems to be much more
She's
intense.
a Leaving Cert student, yeah?
She is, yeah, starting tomorrow.
And she's getting it all over in a week.
Yeah, she's finished the following Wednesday.
That's incredible.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very hard. It's very,
I know it's kind of a short question. I presume the answer is
yeah, but there is a positive side to it. It's over in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I mean, it is.
That is intense.
Very intense. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just ringing you to say it's worse for me. I suppose the advice stands. The same advice stands. It must be more than her doing it, I suppose.
Well, there are very few people who have it in that short of a time span, because obviously the exams are stretched out over 2.5 weeks.
For a reason.
For a reason. And obviously they're all doing back-to-back papers on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But for most of them, it then stretches out over the week. It's just her subject choices happen to have fallen in that particular way.
It's the way it fell.
All I can say to you is it's important that obviously, given the intensity of it, that each particular evening she comes home, she's got 2 papers to prepare for the following day. All you can literally do is look at the structure of the paper, look at the quick run through the whatever study cards or whatever, just glancing through them, and then just take a break, because it's really important in her case that she gets plenty of rest, that she gets the chance to unwind every single night, because 7 hours of concentration every single day is going to be really, really stressful for her. So she's going to have to use the time to recharge her batteries, really, in between the exams.
Find a gap somewhere.
Yeah, she's just going to have to find a gap somewhere.
What condition is she in at the moment, Miriam?
She's perfectly okay up to the last couple of days. I really thought she was a star pupil. So this is a very, very, mature girl. But then the last couple of days I can see a kind of real panic coming in,
Look, there are fellas in KPMG who are, freaked out coming up to refresher courses, who've had huge experience. She is a star pupil,
Yeah,
and, I think the same rules that we've just been giving apply. You must make sure that she doesn't try and extend the study time, that she does get rest, that she does get some level of distraction, that she does get some food and beverage, and that it's the correct kind. And also I would also put up that chart, that freedom calling chart, that shows her schedule first of all.
Yeah.
but also has the big red letter free day. In her case,
Yeah, I think I'll do that today. A big letter for her, big pink letter, a pink letter.
Yeah,
day
put a
for her, I
Statue of
think.
Liberty on the last day.
One point I would make, once she gets the first paper over tomorrow, she's probably going to relax. But if at any point in time, and it can happen, she walks in and she just has a complete blank and she feels, and she's looking at the paper, just put up her hand and say, listen, I'm not feeling great. Get out.
I'll tell her that. Yeah, that's a good thing to
literally,
say.
get out, walk outside, 5 minutes. There's somebody at the door for that specific purpose. There's always a principal in the school. Any student who gets into a distress situation, don't just sit in there. Don't just sit there and be sweating and feeling, oh my God, and getting worse. Put up your hand and say, I'm not really feeling great, and you will get instant support. And it may be just a question of a glass of water or a hot cup of tea or something, or a walk in the air for 5 minutes, and then you'll be back in and you'll be fine. So
that's a good one. I must actually say that to her, because that's the type of thing I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of this kind of...
I could hear that in your voice, and that's how to deal with that if it arises.
Yeah.
And
okay,
that is her
much.
right. That's not some sort of privileged facility or something. That's her right.
Okay.
And make
great.
the chart. Make the chart.
I'll do that as well. Okay. Thank you very much.
And give her our best.
Okay.
I will, yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Thank
Yep.
you. Bye.
Wow, that's most unusual. Not impossible, by the way. Of course that can happen.
It raises one issue, Gerry. I'm just going to throw this in here.
Yeah.
Having students writing for 7 hours a day, day after day after day, is obscene. Yeah. It really is. I mean, if you're trying to assess somebody's ability or somebody's ability to go to college...
Well, some people have an ability to write, and that is the main part of their exam result, their ability to write.
Exactly, and that's why, and this relates back to a story that we had in the Times yesterday about, girls ending up at 70 and 80% of places in high point courses. That ability to write neatly and to present clearly and, at between 17 and 19 years of age is a very, very specific skill, and girls proportionately have it more than boys, and they have those skills, which is why they end up getting a huge percentage of the really sought after places. But there was a suggestion made by the minister there a couple of months ago that the examinations, say for instance one paper in English or one paper in Irish, might be moved back into March or April, but the management rejected it, and they rejected it for a very good reason, because to restructure an entire school to set up a Leaving Cert centre or in the middle of a normal school process is almost impossible, because it's a huge logistics operation. But I have suggested in the past, and I'm going to suggest it again, why don't they allow the student to take a paper, if it's an essay and an unseen prose or something, in English or Irish at the end of fifth year, so that when they come around in the exact same cycle, during the Leaving Cert programme, in the exact same day, at the exact same time it's now been taken, but it would mean that you would take one paper, in other words, you'd have half a day's writing in 07 and a half a day's writing on the same day in 08. And effectively, if they all did it, then there would be no hassle, no new centres, no new nothing, but you would take away that intensity of having to do, as that a woman's daughter is about to have to do, literally 7 or 8 or 9 full 2.5, 3 hour papers in 6 days. It's obscene, really.
But that if any change, if it was made law,
yes,
can happen. I mean, I don't even accept the idea. I mean, I understand how management in schools probably feel that they're overstretched, and the reason they feel that is because they are.
What they're trying to do with orals and orals and art exams and practicals.
But the money is there, and really it's the way that the department actually fund the scheme. If they decide that they need to change it, well, then they need to employ people to come up with that plan and to implement it and to work hand in glove with the schools.
But it's a question of having an exam centre running in a physical location called a school and having a school running at the same time.
But I think what you suggested would work.
Oh, it would work perfectly. Yeah. It would work absolutely perfectly, because effectively, if the student knew that they were doing...
Because they're geared up to do that anyway.
If at the end of fifth year you did one paper in English, which was your essay and whatever, unseen prose or whatever, and then at the end of sixth year you did your novel and your play and all that sort of thing, then effectively you would be able to do the exact same exam schedule at the exact same days, except that instead of having a student sitting there for 7 hours, a student would have done one paper in year 1 and the other paper in year 2. End of problem.
Now, for students listening this morning, we still have a couple of things that we'd like to say to you. We, as I've said at the beginning of the discussion, we will not be able to tell you exactly what you should have been studying, because you have that information yourselves, and probably most of you have actually done an awful lot more than you actually realise. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back after the 10 o'clock news, and we'll have a look at some of the very obvious things, and there are some very obvious things, and you've forgotten them, right, in the panic that these 24 hours can often bring to bear upon your thinking. Things like how predictable some questions actually are, and how not to concentrate overly on something just because you like it. It's points. This is maybe one of the most blunt instruments that you're ever going to come up against, and that is this is a measuring tape that just measures small pieces of information. Your dissertation abilities are almost irrelevant. One thing, most of these papers are predictable. Most, not all of them, but most of them are predictable.
Yeah, and for students today, they have the huge advantage of actually having the marking schemes, as I said earlier, that have been used in all the last number of years. So not only do you know what the paper structure is, and the paper structure is relatively predictable, you also know exactly how the thing is to be marked. And it is one of the reasons why, in fact, the performance of students has increased considerably, as is reported in the papers this morning. The performance of students has increased considerably in terms of grades that they have received over the last number of years, because students can now know exactly what it is it's been looked for. And students shouldn't be aware of that. They should go on to the website of the State Examinations Commission at www.examinations.ie if they haven't already done so.
And it's not too late to do that.
Oh no, they can print out tomorrow's paper, have a look at it if they haven't already done so. And as you said before the break, Gerry, it is important that you answer according to the questions that are asked and in relation to the marks that are awarded for each section. This is not about showing the examiner all you know. It is about answering the specific questions asked in proportion to the marks that are available. So if one section has 30 marks and another section has 6 marks, then obviously you answer proportionately. There's no point if you know a lot about the section that has 6 marks writing for half an hour. You're wasting your time and you're giving up marks that you could get on other sections. So it's about being disciplined. It's about knowing the structure of the paper, and it's about answering the questions in the order that they actually are. You decide to do them, but giving proportionate weight to the questions depending on how much marks are awarded for each section.
Okay, stick on your headphones there. We've got a couple more who want to ask some questions. 1857 15922. We'll start with Clodagh. Clodagh, good morning to you.
Hi, how are you, Gerry?
Very good. Junior or leaving cert?
Leaving certificate.
Okay, when are you starting?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yeah.
What's your question?
No, it's just, I just made a comment earlier on through text message that the lady that was on with her daughter, I'm actually Wednesday to Wednesday as well, but I don't finish then until the 21st, which is the music, so I have an 8-day gap between it. So I was just saying that she's kind of lucky in the sense that she has just a week and she's completely finished, like. Yeah,
because you just get a reprieve.
Yeah, I just get a small break and then I'm back in again, like, so it's not the best.
Well, it could be worse. Yeah, well, you've still got a very punishing schedule, though.
Yeah, it's very hardcore and complete and utter dedication now for the next few days.
All right, just out of curiosity, Clodagh, can you tell us what you plan to do?
In terms of next year, is it?
No, not next year. Let's deal with next year. What you plan to do over the next week? How are you going to go about it? What way are you going to structure your average day?
I'm just going to go in, do my exams, come home, take an hour to chill out and get another energy boost, and then just go back in for the study again and study, go to bed early and do the exact same thing the next day.
What's go to bed early? What time would that be roughly?
About 10:30, 11.
Okay, that's about right. And what time will you get up at?
Probably earlier to look over stuff again before I go in, so probably be about 6:30, I'd say.
Okay, yeah, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Will you be taking a look at what's required by the paper in terms of the number of points allocated to each section, the subject we were just addressing?
Yeah, and
have you done that already?
Yeah, I've gone over that and looked over everything like that, so I'm more or less sorted in that. And the other thing as well is the timing. Just look over your timing for your different questions as well. It's in the front of the exam papers. It just helps you to know how much time to spend on each question, like, because that's where I went down in my mock exams, was time and just spending too much time on different questions that didn't need it. Like.
And have you addressed that? Have you?
Sorry?
Have you addressed that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I've timed myself, and I think I'm up to 15 minutes.
Now, this sounds like a very general question, but how do you feel at the moment?
Extremely nervous. I just said to Mum this morning there, I was so nervous about it. Like, the nerves are really kicking in today. Like.
Well, I mean, it's going to be over in such a short period of time. When you think about it, in less than the space of the average Irish family holiday, you'll be free.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, what are you going to do next year if it works out for you?
Hopefully law in UCD.
Well, good luck to you.
Thanks a million.
A noble pursuit. Good morning. That's Clodagh. Barbara, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry.
Very good. It's your son that you're talking about this morning.
Yeah.
What can we do for you?
Well, this chap has kind of given up completely. This chap now who got 10 A's in his junior cert he's just seemed to given up.
For how long?
Well, the marks weren't that good. Whether that's anything to go by, I'm not sure, but he's not interested in opening his books, or he'll do anything but study. He says he just can't seem to focus, or he's not able to get his head around it.
Brian?
I think that what may be going on here is that he's getting very nervous. And if he is seen to work, and if he is seen to try, and then he doesn't do well, then his whole self-esteem will be down the drain. So what he is doing is saying, I don't care anymore. He actually cares very much. But effectively, he doesn't. He's just so frightened that he isn't going to do well. And if he got 10 A's in his junior cert, he probably has more than enough information to actually do very well in this exam. So what you need to do more than anything else is you need to say to him, look, go in there, do your best. We love you. We will love you if you get an A. We will love you if you don't get an A.
When the unconditional love kicks in.
That's all been said. Yes, that's all been said.
And you just say to him, look, you go to bed early tonight. So long as you've looked at the structure of the paper, all you can do is do your best. So long as you know what you're expecting, so long as you know what's coming up, and you do, because it's all there in the past papers and in the marking schemes, then make sure that you have whatever you need for the exams. If it's a maths exam, make sure you have your calculator or whatever it is. Just know that make sure they're there. Make sure that he has what he needs. Make sure he eats well, goes to bed early, and just allow for the process to take its course over the next week. Because at the end of the day, what's happening is he is so frightened by virtue of the fact of letting you down that he's saying, well, I don't care, or I've given up on it. Because that way, you're in a sense, you're protecting yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's without doubt. First of all, he hasn't got cancer, right?
Yes.
Secondly, he's not a drug addict. Thirdly, he hasn't been stabbed in the heart outside a pub. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
These are three incredible things that did not happen to your son. Okay, he did very well in the junior cert. Maybe the mocks didn't go that well. He's a lot more information in his head than he thinks. But you know something? Even if he's none, right?
Yes.
You try and get out whatever tiny amount or whatever modicum or whatever medium amount is there, or maybe he'll even surprise you and there might be a bit more. Suffice it to say that it's too late at this moment in time to do anything other than bring him to the moment where he actually gets in to the exam, where he's capable of getting out whatever is there, and then you'll deal with the rest of it.
Yeah.
Then you'll deal with the rest of it. And believe you me, Barbara, and I say this from personal experience, from looking around my friends and family and relations and other parents, this is a problem that's worth having. The other problems are shit compared to this.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
For himself, I'd like him to do well. Not just for me, but for himself.
Do you know something? He'll probably do very well if he just sits back and says, look, I'll give it whatever I have, and just relax and get into it.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, he'll do it again, okay?
Yeah, we'll still love him at the end of the day.
No, but he'll do it again, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what his intentions are, actually, yes.
Okay, right, best of luck too.
Thank you very much.
Hard to sit back when you think that, a whole 2 years or 3 years is potentially being tipped down the drain, but I'm telling you, the other options for trouble, be no good if he was another 10 A's and there was some awful stuff going on in the background. Yeah. This stuff you can deal with, okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Now, the temptation to cog.
Yeah.
Right, the technology hasn't got much better. There are those of you out there who probably dream, of having an earpiece in and, some sort of webcam that you can kind of focus on the paper. And your very, very, very bright pal, who isn't, by the way, who miraculously isn't sitting the Leaving Cert at the same time as you, is outside and he's giving you all the information, or she is down the earpiece. Well, that, most of you, unless you're in MI5 don't have access to that technology. And all the old tried and tested techniques really will just only serve to completely freak you out.
Yeah. Well, you see, people who supervise these are teachers, and they're used to looking at young people. And somebody who is stressed because they're trying to cog is like somebody with a flashing light on their head, because you can spot it instantly. So the teacher is watching you for a start. And what you can bring in, the tiny amount of information you can bring in on your leg or your arm, and then you try to contort yourself to look at it, is so small that it's a pointless exercise. I would suggest that in areas like maths and science, where you've got formulae and you've got stuff like that, you can have them on revision cards, and you can take them as far as the door of the examination centre, and you can drop them, and you can walk in, and once you're handed your examination book, you can write them down in your rough work, so long as you didn't physically bring them in. So you just have to hold them in your mind for a minute or two until you get your examination paper, and whether they're on the paper or not, just write them down, and then you can proceed to read the paper.
Let's actually talk about that for a moment, because that is a very significant way of getting off to a great start.
Exactly.
You can bring your reduced notes, by the way, notes reduced,
yes.
Really reduced.
Down literally to mind maps.
Bring them right to the door before you're going in. And the minute you get in, the first thing you do is, with the extra sheets that are there, write down as much as you can.
Just go to the back of the answer book, write the word rough work, and then just write down all the mind maps that you've prepared before you've even read the paper. Yeah. And then you have them. Or
your formulae, or whatever it happens to be. Now, you're allowed to do that, and they're not going to stop you, even standing just at the door waiting to be brought in. They're not going to stop you doing that. Now, when you get in and you sit down, the examiners will be going through a certain amount of ritual. Your nerves begin to really they really begin to race. Your adrenaline is beginning to pump. Now, if you were in the SAS or the Rangers, what they'd be asking you to do is just focus and start breathing and use the adrenaline to your advantage, because it will in fact will in fact help you clear your head. Now, this is when the papers then are delivered down to the desk. You will then immediately begin to compare yourself to everybody else who seems to be immediately and instantly setting about doing the exam while you are having a mental block. Read the paper.
And one thing, Gerry, and just this is so important, as the person handing out the paper is approaching you, do not panic and suddenly say, ordinary level.
Ordinary level!
When you've prepared for higher level. Because that is a disaster. Because some people, and if you look at the statistics every single year, there are thousands less students taking higher level than are registered for it. Now, many of them may have made the decision in the month or two between the mocks and the exams, but there are a cohort of people who just literally panic at the last second. Hold your nerve. If you've prepared for a particular level, you've done the examination preparations, you've looked at the past papers, don't suddenly end up with a paper in front of you you know nothing about because you lose your nerve. So take the paper you're prepared for, and as you say, read it thoroughly first.
And as you read it, you go through and say, okay, is this a question I want to do? And if it is a question you want to do, go to the back of your answer book and start sketching out a rough work, as you said earlier on, a mind map of the question, because you should actually try and mind map out each question you're going to do, because you are not going to remember everything you want to remember. But if you start mind mapping, then you can see you may have 2/3 of the structure of your paper very, very quickly in a mind mapping structure, and then you go back and you start the first question. And what will start to happen? Ideas relating to the other questions that you had missed points on will pop into your head. Quickly go back to the back of the book, put them in, because if you don't, they'll go out of your head again and you remember them walking home. So build up. This is going to apply the whole way through your academic career. I mean, this is maybe the beginning and the end of your academic career, but if it goes on from here, in university you will have exactly the same thing. For instance, that girl who said she's going to study law, one thing she'll find is that she will go into an exam, there will be 2 or 3 cases relevant to answering a question that you need to know to illustrate the answer. And what I used to do, and what every other student who ever got through it did, was you sat down, you instantly wrote out the 2 or 3 points from the cases in the margin or on your rough work paper. So that's what you're going to be doing. You're also going to be taking deep breaths and focusing. You're going to be making sure that you start with the right question. Take your watch off, put it down in front of you.
And do your timing.
And get your timing right from the word go. Figure out how much timing you can give to each question at the get-go.
And if you get to the end of the time and you're not finished, don't be tempted to keep going. What you do is stop at that point in time, leave a gap in the paper where you can actually come back to it, get on to the next question, give the correct timing to that, and when it's all finished, then you can go back and say, right, I have a bit of a question to finish off there, and you're relaxed now because you have the paper finished and you can finish that off. And it's crucially important, if when you have the whole thing done and there's still 10 or 15 minutes to go, do not get up and walk out of the examination
anybody
hall.
who says that they're finished ahead of time is bullshitting.
It's total nonsense, because effectively, if you have the discipline to read back through what you've written, you will see, oh, there's an extra point I could have put in there, there's a correction I need to make there, and if you do that over every single paper in your leaving cert, I guarantee you, sitting here this morning, that you will have 15 or 20 CAO points more than if you don't do that. I guarantee you. This
is reading the paper, jotting down the first things that come to mind in terms of the points that they may be looking for in the question. You will use these to expand your memory recovery more as you go back to actually answer it.
You will indeed.
Use only the time that's appropriate and the length of answering that's appropriate to the marks that are given for the question. Remember, they're only looking for X number of points to be made in each part of the answer. Only give them that.
Yes.
You're not Shakespeare. You may be in a later life, but tomorrow you don't need to be.
No, you do not.
So watch your timing. Be clear in your writing in as much as you can, because it must piss examiners off almightily to try and interpret.
Well, if you think that an examiner
writing
is correcting 500 scripts, and here we come back to the issue relating to why girls do better than boys. If you are correcting 500 scripts and you open a paper and all you see is undiluted text, you don't see paragraphing, you don't see points differentiated, etc., your heart goes down, because effectively this is hard work. And if you open it up and it's clearly presented and the points are differentiated, and if they're looking for 4 points and you have each point separated out, then you will get the marks more than if you just, a big blurge of text. And it's so important that you do and work with the examiner, because they're trying to support you, they're trying to give you the maximum amount of marks, and you have to work with them to present the information as clearly and as neatly as you possibly can.
Okay, I think that's about it, really. One more point.
One more point. Everything that is written on your examination paper is corrected. Every single thing. So if you're unclear as to, what you want to, whether a point is correct or not, write down both, because the correct point will actually receive the marks. And obviously, we're giving an awful lot of support here in RTE to the students. We have a programme 606 which is going out this evening and every single evening.
You'll be with Evelyn O'Rourke,
and I'll be with Evelyn tonight. And between 7 and 8 every single night over the Leaving Cert, we'll be supporting you. So good luck tomorrow, and it'll all go very well for you.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. We did advise against cheating in the exam, but if you insist, maybe you should go to Fine Gael headquarters, where the Chief of Examination Assistants is giving a masterclass.
I can't remember a single thing about Pythagoras' theorem.
What? Pythagoras, what poem did he write?
What?
Oh, God.
So I hope Ulysses is on English paper too.
I'm doing geography, and sure, what would I know about Columbia, huh?
What? The exams are next week. I'm going to fail for sure.
Oh, no.
Hello, Nobs.
Help us, Enda.
All right, okay.
Help us out, will you? Let her hold.
Yeah.
Well, that is why I invited you here to Fine Gael headquarters in Upper Mount Street for this pre-exams summit.
How are you, lads?
Oh, Taoiseach, I didn't expect to see you here.
Nothing wrong with a bit of extra revision, Enda,
Well, it's not exactly a revision session, Taoiseach. More a forum for exam assistance methods.
You mean a Coggin class? You can't even pass an exam without cheating, for God's sake.
Well, we're not all the friggin' T-fell, Taoiseach, are we, huh?
It's Teflon, you muppet.
Settle down. Now let's see who has the best exam cheating methods.
Yes.
Who's on mechanical drawing?
Me.
Martin Cullen.
Well, I'm going to smuggle in the entire plans for Dublin's complex and state-of-the-art metro system, cleverly disguised as a packet of polo mints.
Let me see that, will you, Cullen? It is a bleeding packet of polo mints, Cullen. You're going to make a mess of the Shaggin Metro as well, are you? Well, we'll see about that.
Cunis, Derek Davis, how's your cogging going?
Well, I'm currently eating copies of the Irish syllabus and hope to retrieve them sans lettres during the exam. I must say, Peg Sayers is delicious.
Marion Finucane, you're on Shakespeare.
Hello there. Well, I must say that I'm having great difficulty writing this
this Macbeth play on a Nicorette patch. Lucky that I'm wearing 100 of them just to get me through the first 5 minutes.
Right, all lads, great work. But I am the maestro at the special exam assistance. I've written the entire history of Europe on a roll of Andrex toilet paper in the Jacks.
For God.
What? Genius or what?
Hang on a second.
What?
What happens if someone... This Galway water crisis is an outrage. Half an hour on the pot. I had to use an entire roll, you know.
No.
And some half-wit had the audacity to write some gibberish on it.
No! Me bloody notes! Right, lads, I suppose I'll have to sing my way to an A1. Let's go! The chance to be a Taoiseach comes around once. I lost the damn election, look like a dunce. Enda is my name, and I found a new game called Cheated.
Laughed at.
Yeah, cheated.
Muppet.
Just cheated, 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 cheated. No one wants to look an idiot.
Too late.
Showing I'm funky and strong Fine Gael. Gotta do something or I'm gonna fail. I'll cheat it. I'll cheat it. I'm in Egypt. Just Egypt. Okay. Cheated, 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 cheated. No one wants to look at Egypt.
Hey, Kenny.
What?
Why are you cheating anyway? Sure, you're doing foundation level.
How dare you? Well, I suppose you'd know all about foundation, wouldn't you?
For God's sake, just get over it.
What?
You lost.
I did not.
You lost. Now
It's
get
not
over it.
It's not over.
Gerry Ryan, the Rhino.